I want you to think about the most violent thing you've ever seen. Maybe it was a movie. Maybe it was news. Maybe it was something you witnessed in real life. Now, I want you to ask yourself one question. Where did that violence come from? We like to blame modern society. We blame video games, social media, politics, stress, the system. We tell ourselves that violence is a modern problem, a civilized world problem, that somewhere deep in human history, before cities and governments and wars, humans were peaceful, innocent, pure. I'm about to completely destroy that idea, because the evidence, cold, hard, undeniable archaeological evidence, tells a story that will change how you see every human being you have ever met, including yourself. Did ancient humans commit murder? Oh yes, but the real question isn't whether they did it. The real question is why, and what that means for you right now, today, in your modern life. This is the darkest, most fascinating story in all of human history. And it starts 430,000 years ago, the oldest murder scene in history. In 1997, archaeologists in Spain made a discovery that stopped the entire scientific world. Deep inside a cave called Cima de los Huesos, which translates to the pit of bones, they found the remains of at least 28 ancient humans, 28 individuals, all in one place, all dead. Now, mass death in ancient times wasn't unusual. Disease, starvation, predators, these things killed groups of humans regularly. But something about this site was different. When scientists examined the skulls, they found something that made their blood run cold. 2 holes, in the same skull, in the exact same location, on the same side of the head. One wound could be an accident, a fall, a predator attack. But 2 identical wounds in the same spot? That is not an accident. Scientists concluded with high confidence that this individual was struck twice in the head with the same weapon, by the same attacker deliberately. This was not a predator attack. This was not an accident. This was murder. 430,000 years ago, before language as we know it, before tribes as we understand them, before any concept of law or society. A human being looked at another human being and decided to end their life. And here is the part that truly haunts scientists. The body was then carefully carried deep into the cave and placed there deliberately. The murderer felt something after. Guilt? Respect? Fear? We don't know, but they felt something human enough to not just leave the body where it fell. And that single detail reveals something terrifying about our species. We have always known that killing another human being means something. Now here's where it gets truly disturbing. For a long time, scientists assumed that murder in ancient human societies was rare, an exception, an anomaly. They were wrong. A landmark study published in the journal Nature analyzed violence data from 600 different ancient human populations across hundreds of thousands of years. The conclusion was deeply uncomfortable. Approximately 2% of all ancient human deaths were caused by other humans. 2% doesn't sound like much until you do the math. In a tribe of 150 people, which was the average ancient human group size, 2% means someone in your immediate community was killed by another person roughly every few years. Not every generation, not once in a lifetime, every few years. Think about your own circle of people, your family, your friends, your neighbors. Now imagine that every few years, one of them was killed by someone else in that same circle. That is what ancient human life looked like. And it gets worse. That 2% figure, it spiked dramatically during certain periods. During resource scarcity, drought, harsh winters, failed hunts, the rate jumped to as high as 15 to 30% in some populations. 15 to 30% of all deaths caused by other humans. In those periods, your biggest threat wasn't the cave lion outside your camp. It was the person sleeping next to you. So why? Why did ancient humans kill each other? The reasons will sound disturbingly familiar. Reason number 1: resources. Food, water, territory, fire, shelter. In 50,000 BC, these things were not abundant. They were fought over constantly. Archaeological sites across the world show evidence of ancient humans being killed near food sources, near water, near prime shelter locations. Ancient humans killed for the same reason modern humans go to war. Because someone else had what they needed to survive. Reason number 2: revenge. This one is fascinating because it reveals something profound about ancient human psychology. Revenge requires memory. It requires the ability to connect a past event to a present action. It requires planning and emotional investment. In other words, revenge requires a complex human mind. And ancient humans had exactly that. Archaeological evidence shows patterns of repeated violence between the same groups over extended periods. Attack, counterattack, attack again. Ancient blood feuds, exactly like the ones that still happen today, just without the lawyers. Reason number 3, power. This is the darkest one. Evidence from ancient burial sites shows clear social hierarchies in many ancient human groups. Some individuals were buried with weapons, with food, with valuable objects. Others were buried with nothing, or not buried at all. Power existed in 50,000 BC. And where power exists, so does the willingness to kill to keep it. Ancient human leaders, the strongest, the most skilled, the most feared, maintained their position the same way leaders have maintained power throughout all of human history, through the very real threat of violence. Reason number 4, and this one will surprise you. Ritual. Some ancient human killings were not about resources or revenge or power. They were deliberate, ceremonial, intentional sacrifices. Evidence of ritual killing has been found across multiple continents, across hundreds of thousands of years. Ancient humans killed not just for survival, but for meaning. They believed that death, the death of another human being, could communicate with forces beyond their understanding. This is perhaps the most deeply human thing on this entire list, because it shows that ancient humans weren't just killing out of animal instinct. They were killing out of belief. Here's something that forensic archaeologists discovered that stopped them cold. When they analyzed the victims of ancient human violence, the bones, the wounds, the burial patterns, a disturbing profile emerged. The victims were not random. Certain groups were significantly more likely to be killed than others. First, outsiders. Humans from different tribes, different territories, different groups. Kill rates for outsiders were dramatically higher than for group members. Ancient humans had a word for people in their tribe, and a completely different category for everyone else. In their minds, an outsider was not fully human in the same way a tribe member was. Sound familiar? It should, because this exact psychological pattern, this tribal thinking, still runs in every human brain on Earth today, including yours. Second, the weak. Ancient human societies had no hospitals, no welfare systems, no social safety nets. Individuals who could not contribute through injury, illness, or age were sometimes killed, not out of cruelty, but out of a cold survival calculation. They consumed resources without providing them. In a world of scarcity, this was a death sentence. Third, and this is the one that will stay with you, children. Archaeological evidence from multiple ancient sites shows deliberate killing of infants and young children, not by predators, by other humans. In times of extreme resource scarcity, when a tribe could not feed everyone, the youngest members, who consumed resources but could not yet contribute, were sometimes sacrificed. This is the darkest finding in all of ancient human archaeology, and it reveals something about the human capacity to make impossible choices under impossible conditions. That capacity has not left us. It has simply been redirected. Now, here is the part that matters. Why are we talking about this? Why does ancient human violence matter to your life today? Because it's still in you. Every aggressive impulse you have ever felt, the road rage, the jealousy, the desire to hurt someone who hurt you, that is not a modern malfunction. That is 430,000 years of survival programming doing exactly what it was designed to do. Your brain cannot tell the difference between someone cutting you off in traffic and someone stealing your food supply. The emotional response is the same. The ancient circuits fire exactly the same way. The only difference is that you have something ancient humans didn't have. A prefrontal cortex powerful enough to override those circuits. The ability to feel the impulse and choose not to act on it. This is what separates modern humans from ancient ones. Not the absence of violent impulses. We all have them. The ability to choose. Ancient humans who couldn't control their violence were killed by their own tribes. Natural selection, over hundreds of thousands of years, slowly built into us the capacity for restraint. Every time you feel anger and don't act on it, you are completing a process that started 430,000 years ago in a cave in Spain. You are the product of every human who chose restraint over violence. That is not weakness. That is the most sophisticated thing a human brain has ever learned to do. So did ancient humans commit murder? Yes, absolutely, undeniably. But here's what that history actually tells us. It tells us that violence is not who we are. It's where we came from. The entire arc of human history, from that skull in the Spanish cave 430,000 years ago to right now, today, is the story of a species slowly, painfully, imperfectly learning to choose something other than violence. We haven't finished that story yet, not even close, but we are further along than we have ever been. And you, right now, reading this, existing in a time of more peace and less violence than any period in human history, you are the proof that the story is moving in the right direction, even if it doesn't always feel that way. If this changed how you see yourself and your species, subscribe to CaveThink. Every week we go deeper into the incredible, dark, and surprising story of where humans came from. Drop a comment below. Do you think humans are naturally violent or naturally peaceful? I genuinely want to know what you think. I'll reply to every single one.